Hello, everyone. Welcome to our UPE panel, Identities in Tech, a fireside chat with 3 alumni on their experiences with identity, diversity, and representation in the industry. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Chloe.
We will be your hosts for this panel. Today, we are joined with Megan Johnson, Ricky Lee, and Cristen Anderson, UCLA UPE alumni, with unique perspectives of traversing tech as less represented identities. Can you all introduce yourselves with what you are doing in tech, when you graduated from UCLA, your affiliation with UPE, and what perspectives of your identity you will be sharing with us today?
I guess I'll go first. Hi, I'm Megan. I work as a front-end software engineer at Google. I graduated from UCLA in 2013. And while I was at UCLA, I was in UPE, I was in the Society of Women Engineers. Actually, I think I was the computer science chair for the Society of Women Engineers. I can't really remember what I did. But yeah, I was in that group. And then I was also in hooligan theater as a pastime. I performed in shows as an actor, which was super fun. What else would you like me to say?
So like your affiliation with UPE and what perspectives of identity you will be sharing with us today?
Oh, sure. So yeah, affiliation with UPE, I was just in UPE. I didn't do anything specifically. So the facets of my identity, I suppose I am a woman in tech, which is historically underrepresented, and I definitely was one of 5 women in a class when I was at UCLA. And also I'd like to bring a perspective of someone who has an interest in theater or the arts or some other sort of non-technical aspect. I feel like it's important to see that people can be interested in lots of different things in addition to technology and computer science. I also have the perspective of transitioning from a non-technical role to a technical role while at Google, so I can speak a little bit about that as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Megan. Cristen or Ricky, do you want to go up next?
Sure, I can go. Hi, I'm Cristen. I'm a software engineer at Google as well, and I graduated in 2018, so I think I'm the most recent grad of the panelists. In UPE, I was super involved in UPE. Love UPE. I was mentorship chair first, and then I was internal vice president, and then my senior year I was president. So yeah, I really enjoyed being involved in UPE, and what else? Other things I did at UCLA. I was involved in club swimming as well, and competed, with other schools and things like that. That was pretty fun. And I was also a part of a Christian fellowship. So yeah, I guess aspects of my identity that are more interesting. I'm a woman in tech as well. I've also worked in 3 different continents so far, and I've had a lot of experience with kind of navigating different cultural environments and learning from different perspectives in that sense. So I'm currently living and working in Singapore. So yeah, my background is a little bit lighter because it's daytime, morning here. But yeah, and I'm also like faith is something that's important to me as well. And I think that's something that's not always super represented in tech in my experience, but happy to speak to that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ricky?
Hi, I'm Ricky. I graduated 2017. I used to be UP president. Before that, I think I was the corporate chair for 2 years. And yeah, in terms of diversity, I'm like part of the queer community and always trying to rep them. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah, I guess to just kick things off, just in general, like how is everyone doing? Have any of you picked up new hobbies or interests in this quarantine as well?
I started a sourdough starter, so I have baked sourdough bread now twice, and that has been fun and time consuming and requires lots of flour. Yeah.
I feel like people have been doing like the sourdough and then they've been like the whipped coffee. I've seen that a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of baking as well. I haven't gotten to sourdough yet because like I've still been able to find an abundant supply of yeast, so I've been just doing my own bread and cooking as well.
That's awesome. Wow. You guys all sound like really great bakers. First off, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad to have you. I guess to kick things off, can you first share with us what made you decide to pursue a career in the tech industry?
That's a good question. I definitely didn't know what I wanted to do going into UCLA. I kind of picked computer science because I knew that I knew I wanted to do something like engineering or math related. And then I knew computer science was like harder to switch into. So I figured at least if I like went with that first, then it'd be easy to switch out of. But then like if I decided later that I would want to do it, then it'd be harder. So that was kind of my reasoning. So yeah, I didn't come in with much experience. So it was definitely a hard like first year, I think, where I was definitely questioning like, is this for me or not? I think what really kind of got me through that was like connecting with other peers who were kind of also struggling or just like, you know, we're working through the classes together and feeling like I was able to succeed. And I really enjoyed like getting to the point like after like the lower divisions where, you know, you're actually building things that are interesting and relevant and yeah, like I think after my first internship as well, then it became clear to me like, yeah, this is something I enjoy and I can do that and contribute to a company in a meaningful way. So that was kind of my journey, but I think I faced a lot of like self-doubt in that process of like, I'm not sure if this is really for me. I don't know if I fit in. Like, I feel like other people are way smarter than me and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had those same feelings too along the way. I actually started at UCLA as an undeclared humanities major, fun fact, and halfway through fall quarter, my mom, who is a software engineer, was like, you should study programming because that's what I do and I think you'll like it. So I was like, okay. So I took Pick 10. I think that was the class, and I was just like intro to programming. And I took that class and I liked it. And I was like, okay, I like it. I like solving problems. And so I actually had to transfer into the School of Engineering from humanities undeclared, which was a whole process too that I imagine is probably much harder now than it was in 2010, whenever I was a freshman. 2009. Wow. So I was able to transfer, and but along the way it was, you know, I definitely like struggled, and I especially remember sophomore year was the hardest for me in terms of just like adjusting to college, classes start to get a lot harder, and you start to like you've like made some friends, but you haven't made like best friends. And so you're kind of like trying to form this community, but you're still not sure if like these are your people, and classes are getting more intense. So I definitely relate to that, feeling like other people are smarter. And actually, by the end of UCLA, I wasn't sure I wanted to be a software engineer. I kind of felt burnt out a little bit, and I wasn't sure if I fit in or if I would be good at it. And so I started at Google right after college as a technical account manager in a division called GTech, which was still a technical role, but it was not a software engineering role. And over the course of a couple of years, I realized that what I really, really wanted to do was like build things. I really enjoy solving problems and building things, and that made me want to pursue switching to software engineering. So I switched to computer science at UCLA, and then I switched to software engineering at Google. So I guess I like to take the hard route, but that's what I did. And luckily I have like a really great community of friends now at Google. I had friends that I made in college in computer science program, who they were actually all in UPE too, who are still my very good friends and are also at Google now. And that's just been a really great community to lean into as well.
For me, I actually started as a biochemistry major because I loved chemistry. I still really like chemistry, and I actually took all the way up until OChem before I was like, oh, like maybe I should do computer science. But computer science has always been something that like I thought was interesting, but not necessarily like my, I don't know, like top priority. But then I like thought more about being a biochemistry major, and I decided I really don't want to do any more school. Like I'm done with school, like no more, like I'm graduating, I'm done. So I switched over to be a computer science major, and honestly, like I don't think I'm like, you know, I was never like, I felt like I could do really well in like my chemistry classes, but I never felt that way about my computer classes. I feel like computer science classes are always like a grind for me. I remember OS was just like so hard. Yeah, but somehow still managed to, because I felt like at least in CS, it was like the amount of effort you put in usually correlated to like the amount of success you had later on. So because of that, I just kind of like pushed myself, and ultimately, yeah, I found a software engineer role after I graduated.
No, I completely relate to that. CS is definitely a grind. On that same vein to what like Cristen and Megan were talking about feelings of self-doubt. This is a question for all of you. Were there any obstacles you faced regarding your identity in tech, and how that might have affected feelings of belongingness in tech and CS as a field in general for any of you?
I definitely felt a little othered sometimes. We didn't do a ton of group projects to my recollection, but there was a group project we did once. I think it was 5 people, where I was the only woman. Because when I would study for computer science, or I would, you know, ask questions or whatever, I had friends who were also women in the program, and so I felt more comfortable asking them for help or leaning on them. And I felt comfortable asking TAs, obviously. But when I was in this group project, that still stands out in my memory as like, this is a different experience than I have experienced before, because I was the only woman. And like when you're working on a group project, you are around these people more, and you can see how they might interact in a not like specifically academic setting. because you're going over to their apartment to work on a project. And so it's just, yeah, I definitely felt a little othered occasionally during that time. But I got through it.
Yeah.
For me, go ahead,
Go ahead.
Kristen.
No, it's okay.
Okay. For me, I didn't really feel like, and I didn't feel that much resistance in college, I'd say, but I definitely at work, there's always like kind of trying to understand if like I'm in a safe space or not. It's like, oh, like, like would they be okay with like me being queer? And for the most part at work, I actually like didn't bring it up for like the first like year, even though I was like out to, you know, everyone else in my life. Just because it kind of like never came up at work. But there are definitely times where I remember specifically as an intern, like just things might like not feel super comfortable. Like I couldn't really bring my authentic self to work because like I think as a joke, like our team would be like, oh, like are you dating anyone? And then, you know, like I'm just like, oh no, I'm like busy internshipping, I guess. And like I always felt like I had to kind of navigate out of those situations because I felt like coming out would like impact the way that people would like interact with me. But I think slowly, like after I started full time, I kind of just like tell myself, you know, I have to like just be myself and like go forward with it because you know, that's life. And like if people don't like me, then, you know, like I think it speaks to like the type of company culture you're in. And luckily, like I haven't had any like issues at Google. But if I did, I'd probably leave and like just go to a different company. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it was probably hardest for me also like in the initial years of UCLA, just because I think that was like where I'm also trying to find my confidence and footing in tech in general. Like, do I actually know how to code or not? And yeah, I think the hardest part for me was just like, I think I'm somebody who really likes to like collaborate and like work with friends and stuff like that, and I definitely had a hard time like finding people to like work with, especially my first year. And I think a key turning point for me was when I was able to like find like a group of people that I could work with, and that you know, we would support each other and things like that. And I just remember it being difficult, like reaching out to people because like they would just like look at me weird when I would like talk to them in class or something and be like, you know, trying to make small talk. And yeah, and I think that was challenging. But I guess something I've seen as well is like, the things that have really helped with that feeling is like just having awesome people that are supportive and like finding that community. And like I've definitely had a lot of like great mentors and things like that I feel like have really helped to kind of change my perspective of myself, as well as like just help me to feel confident in like my own abilities. And so I feel like that's been a huge thing that I think without that, like I definitely would have just been like, no, I don't like, I don't belong here. This is not for me. So yeah, like even I remember like joining UPE, and then like that year, like the presidents of like ACM and UPE were both female, and like they were both people that I like got to know, like in a hackathon, they like worked with me, and I just felt super like, I mean, they were like seniors and I was a sophomore at the time. And, you know, things like that just like really kind of encouraged me and helped me feel like, you know, okay, they're like normal people, and, you know, they're like me in some respects, and, you know, they're succeeding in this field as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those stories and experiences. I guess honing in on those experiences and stories that you all have, I want to ask you all, what do you think is like the main issues regarding identity and diversity, specifically in the realm of the tech industry itself?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, for sure. So what I was saying is, what are all of your takes on the main issues regarding identity and diversity, specifically in the realm of the tech industry itself?
There's so many places to start.
I think one thing that is important is to really advocate for yourself in terms of getting offer letters and also in terms of getting promotions. I think, I mean, this is a common thing that it's not going to be any surprise that, you know, men think, well, not to say a blanket statement about what men think, but women are generally less likely to ask for promotions. They're generally less likely to push back on like offer letters that have a certain salary level, a certain salary number, or a certain level. And I think the leveling thing is very important here. I think that women as a whole in the tech industry are under-leveled. They might come in to a company and be placed at one level versus another, where somebody with the same experience might come in and be placed at a different level. And so when you compare across the level for salary discrepancies of different cohorts, you'll see, okay, it's like roughly equal, but does that correlate to their abilities, their skills, their experience? I don't know if that's true. So one thing that I would always encourage people to have discussions with their managers. I have more of a workplace perspective, since I'm a little bit older, than a college perspective about getting offer letters and stuff. But I would say that having salary conversations as often as possible is a really good thing. I go to Grace Hopper every year, which is a conference for women in tech, and that is usually in October, which is right before our salary comp discussions happen. And I like to use that as a time to go to my manager and be like, look, I want to talk about salary. I want to talk about compensation. I want to talk about my skills and how they measure up against what I'm being compensated for. So Grace Hopper is a good excuse because I can be like, they told me to talk to you, but really it's just a good like checkpoint for me to have that conversation. So yeah.
I actually have a friend, and she tells me that she's I think she's like very aggressive about like having those like more difficult conversations with her manager. And then she tells me that how she gets, or how she kind of like musters up the courage to do it, is that like she feels like society like pushes her to like not do that, and like in order to fight against like the patriarchy, she's like, I have to do it, like, I have to fight it. And I love that.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like diversity, I think, you know, there are a lot of like, I think it's a multi-faceted issue in tech, and even like at a smaller scale, I feel like you can like point out like things happening in UCLA that are probably harmful. I remember I really encourage people to attend Grace Hopper or like other diversity conferences for underrepresented minorities in tech. Like I went to the queer one called a UTC, But one of the conversations I remember overhearing at UCLA is like, oh, she only got the offer because she went to Grace Hopper and got it. And like, that kind of like made me furious, because it's like, okay, well, if you're not good enough, don't go hating on other people. But I think that type of like, there are people that have that type of mindset, and it definitely makes it discouraging for people who are like minorities to like continue to move forward or like have confidence. I also think there's a big pipeline issue, right? I think it's getting better, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem. Like, if you have, when there aren't that many people that look like you in tech, you're probably less likely to want to go into tech, right? But I think UCLA, at least, I think is doing a great job in terms of like supporting more underrepresented minorities. Like, I know that they allocate funds for like UCLA students to go to Grace Hopper. I know that they do outreach for like underrepresented minorities to recruit them to UCLA computer science or Cs in general. And I think that is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can talk about like a slightly different aspect of diversity, which is like more at a personal level, I guess, of like inclusion. Because I think for me, like inclusion is something that's just really important to like, work and doing the best work that you can, is feeling like you're in an environment where, even if people are different from you, but at least like they're willing to kind of try to understand who you are a little bit, and, understand the ways that you might be different from them. And I've worked with like a lot of really diverse teams, and I think I've seen the importance of that, not just for myself, but like for other members on the team. And yeah, like I think of like, some of my colleagues that I had on my first team in Singapore, and, our manager was Canadian. But then like most of my colleagues were like from this part of the world, like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. And sometimes like I felt like I had a huge advantage in terms of relating to our manager, because we are from like North America, and like just communication styles are very similar. Whereas like I could tell that some of my colleagues like had a lot of trouble voicing their opinions, whereas like I'm like very upfront and straightforward about like what I think. And so I really spent a lot of effort trying to understand like where they were coming from, and like, why it was harder for them to voice their opinions in meetings for various reasons, and like just kind of encouraging them in that as well. And I think that was like, we had a bunch of interns over the summer that I kind of worked on that with as well. And I think that kind of allowed me to see like certain advantages that I have because of like aspects of my identity that are maybe more advantageous at a company like Google, and how I can kind of use those to help others that may not have those advantages. And I think, I've been on the receiving end of that as well, I guess, in terms of, feeling like I had mentors that would reach out to me and kind of ask me tough questions about like my career path and things like that would inspire me to like think more about things that maybe I wouldn't naturally. And yeah, I think that's all part of just like getting to know people, and getting to know people who are different from you, and just putting in like a little bit of effort to like understand where they're coming from and who they are, I think can go a long way to kind of then, helping the people that are already there feel comfortable, then helps, the next people that are coming on as well. So
that reminds me of a talk that I heard of or went to at Grace Hopper last year. It was a talk called Teams Are Made of Humans, and it was fantastic. It was my favorite talk that I went to last year. First of all, I wanted to put in a quick plug for Grace Hopper. If you've never been to Grace Hopper, I highly recommend going. I had never heard of Grace Hopper when I was in college, so I didn't even know that there was a big college contingent there. And Grace Hopper is definitely something that helped inspire me to really pursue software engineering as a career path, even after I graduated. So quick plug for that. But the talk that I went to, Teams Are Made of Humans, is about just that. Teams are made of humans. And so even though people might be different than you in various ways, this talk was all about creating user manuals. So the idea is that everyone on your team creates a user manual, which is basically the best way to work with you, ways that you like to communicate, how you could, how the rest of the team can make you feel included, how you like to receive feedback. Also, like little anecdotes about yourself that really humanize you, I guess, to the rest of your team. And I found that really useful because while I had worked with a lot of my coworkers for multiple years and knew them pretty well, I learned new things about these people who I was working very closely with, and have a better understanding of the way that they work, even though it's very different than the way that I work. Just laying those out and talking about them and having a discussion just about how we work together really helps remind me that I am working with humans. I'm not working with, coworkers who are only there to do work. Like, they are full human beings with ideas, dreams, desires, a history. So
Yeah, thank you all for sharing those thoughts. And I think especially like what you finish off by saying, Megan, about like how by like understanding our team, and it like really like supports and lifts everyone on it. And I guess in that kind of same vein, I know you all kind of shared earlier a little bit about like your individual struggles, like whether that was in your classes or in the workplace. And so what do you think that our schools and workplace can do in order to support people like who maybe like you in the past were struggling, in order to maybe not place the burden on the people who like are a part of the minority, and generating like those resources to really like support them, or like what helped you along your way as well?
I mean, I think at an institutional level, just like having support groups and having like the opportunities like going to Grace Hopper or things like that, like definitely do go a long way. I think it's kind of hard because in some sense the problem is also not just like institutional, but also just more cultural or attitudes that people have, or like, just the way that people interact. And so I don't know, I spend time thinking about also like, as more of like a society or a culture, how can we individually, contribute towards making people feel more included. And I think, that is the harder thing to do than just like setting up support groups or things like that. But I also feel like it's super rewarding to kind of just get to know people from different backgrounds and put in the effort to try to understand and get to know people that are different from you. And I think having relationships in general will definitely help people feel a sense of belonging. And that's something kind of everybody can individually do, whether that's like you're in a group project or, you're sitting next to someone in class or whatever it is, to just kind of go a little bit more out of your way to like make sure that somebody is feeling included, and ask them about their life and or something. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think on campus, I actually think UCLA does like a relatively good job in terms of just like creating like organizations, for example, ACMW, that kind of help underrepresented minorities kind of like find a support group or find mentorship. Um, I I feel like um, mentorship to me was very helpful because it's amazing to be able to see people like you succeed, and like they kind of like talk about their own struggles. And I think hearing how things, like when you hear about how they go to the same struggles, it kind of it makes you realize, hey, like this is like kind of normal. Like it doesn't feel odd. Um, and yeah, I really owe it to like a lot of great mentors that I have, kind of telling me about how they navigated through certain situations that I will probably encounter or like in the future, basically. Yeah.
I would probably add something about, I think one of the things for me in college is that I felt a sense for the technical groups on campus like UPE or Society of Women Engineers. I obviously felt like I belonged to them because that was my major, but part of me also felt like I didn't belong to them because I wasn't like, CS was not my passion. Computer science still isn't really my passion. I like doing it for my job and I get enjoyment out of it, and I do feel fulfilled by it. But like, I have so many other things, part of my personality, that I want to spend my time and interests, like theater, for example. I love musical theater. I actually really wanted to minor in theater, but I couldn't because I had too many computer science classes to take. And so I think part of it is like understanding that just because it's a computer science club doesn't mean that that is the only thing that people want to talk about or want to have interest in, right? So I think it's important to bring your whole self to the equation, so, and let other people see that, and not have that be, maybe this technical interest be the only thing that maybe a club is about.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess kind of like along that same line, like how do you think that we can like better promote like diversity, not only within like our own identities, but like in interests, like you're not only maybe like, it's like you're not only a woman, or you're not only like a person of color, or you're not only someone who's interested in computer science, you're also interested in like X, Y, and Z. Like how can we promote this kind of sort of like these different forms of diversity among like the entering workforce, or even among children who may be interested in pursuing something along those lines as well?
That's hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
a
hard
hard
question. I know
question.
there's no right answer. It's
I
just,
think it's
would
a
love to hear your thoughts.
visibility thing, right? Like, do you see do other people communicate those aspects of themselves? Do you see other people, do you go to a meeting and people are only talking about one specific thing, or is it more like, I don't know how many social events UPE has, but I'm a more social person, so I definitely would feel comfortable in a more social setting. That might not be true for everybody. So it's tricky because people are different. People want different things out of interactions.
Yeah, I think some of it can be just like more open sharing about those things. Something that my team at work does that I think is kind of fun is like in our weekly team meeting, we all share like a personal win for the week of like just something that happened this week that like we were excited about, like that's not really related to work at all. And I feel like those are like, you say something that's like 5 to 10 seconds, but like it kind of gives you a glimpse into other people's worlds in kind of a small way that then can promote like more meaningful conversation later. Or like, finding out that like several of us play instruments and then we decided to do a song cover together for fun, and things like that I think can be done at like a smaller group level, or like a UPE level, or, you know, something like that. And I think just as leaders as well, like speaking out about other things that you do, or just being open about that. I think I definitely relate to what Megan was saying in the sense that also you might feel that like the only path to success in computer science is like if it is your passion, and if it is like, you know, the one thing that you do and you're just like really, really into it. And I definitely didn't identify with that either. And so I think as people that have more influence, like speaking openly about, you know, other things that you enjoy, or the fact that that isn't all that you do with your life, can be something that is helpful to others who may be feeling like, am I supposed to have this be my whole life? So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So like we talked a lot about like stigma, you know, like cultivating inclusivity in like small spaces, big spaces. In your opinion, can you share with us all your opinions as to why you suppose diversity is productive in the workplace, and how it helps not only like a team of individuals, but also like an individual who is working and navigating that workplace? Like how does it like inspire you or make you a better person, innovator, whatever facet of yourself you're working with a big team?
So many ways. I'm just trying to think of examples.
I think like in terms of just like thinking about products and like having like a very work type of view on diversity, the reality is like you can't really make products for people unless you have like unless you kind of understand the types of people you're making products for. So if you don't really have a diverse like team working on a product, or diverse like ideas or viewpoints, then you know you're never gonna create a product that's like meant for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say also, even just in terms of problem solving, like I do think that diversity contributes to like a more diverse problem solving method, I guess. Like people kind of have their own ways of solving problems, and I think on more diverse teams, like you get a lot of different ideas coming about because people are just thinking differently. And I've definitely seen that in teams that I've been on. Just how like people have ideas that like wouldn't have occurred to me at all, and you know, they're coming from a very different background than I was from. So that's professionally something that I think I've definitely seen be important. And then also, I think the more diverse teams that I've been on have definitely felt more inclusive for like everybody on the team, I guess, as well. Like feeling like, okay, like if I'm the only woman, at least like, you know, everyone has some kind of feeling of being the only whatever, because our team is really diverse. And that kind of leads to like people being forced to try to understand each other and get to know different people from them. And I think that's been really like positive team cultures as well, compared to teams where like maybe majority is like same race and gender or something, and then like that kind of will dominate like the lunch conversations, and like those interests will kind of dominate like what is talked about or discussed, and it's just less interesting in my opinion. Like I think it's really cool to just get to know what's interesting and what's on the minds of like other people. Like, I don't know, I've been learning about like Indonesian politics, and that's like fascinating to me, and like not something that I would have known about otherwise. So I think personally there's like a lot to gain as well. Just things that people are reading and learning about on their own time, and getting to kind of share in that. So.
Yeah, I think getting to know people who you're working with, or just people in general who are different than you, really gives you a lot of empathy for them. I think empathy is very important in this conversation too. Like, if you can understand, maybe you don't totally agree with them, or you wouldn't do things the way that they do, but if you have a better understanding of who they are as a person, then I think you'll work together better, you'll be friendlier, you'll just have a greater understanding of them as a person, and I think that makes you a better person too. So
Awesome. I love how like you've arrived at all like these like wonderful perspectives of like diversity and how it like improves like the workplace and everything. And I guess like a question that I want to ask all of you right now is, have you had any role models, experiences, or stories that you want to share with us with how you were able to come to the point today where you've like arrived at like these really cool introspective ideas and perspectives of diversity, or anything, any experience that personally inspired you to like have these, like, to be like the person that you are today?
I think my mom is super inspiring. If I can plug her a little bit, she was a software engineer at Lockheed Martin here in Sunnyvale, and she was a software engineer at a time where there weren't like any software engineers. It was just a new field coming about. So I feel super inspired by her career, how she progressed to be a lead and managed people herself. So I like to look to her occasionally as a role model, because she's great. And Mother's Day just happened, so super thankful for her.
I guess I can say definitely my second internship host was super inspiring to me. I actually like met her at Grace Hopper, and at that time I was like, that was like beginning of sophomore year, and like I had no idea where I was gonna go, and like I wasn't very confident in my skills, but I was assigned to like her team, and there was a hackathon at Grace Hopper that I participated in, and yeah, and she was, you know, super helpful and whatever, even though I knew nothing at all. And then like a year later, I actually ended up like getting the EP internship at Google, and I did that, and then I wanted to go like to Europe for my next internship, and so she worked in the Zurich office, and so I like reached out to her, and I was like, I don't think she's gonna remember me. Like I spoke with her for like an hour during a hackathon, and like I definitely did not make a good impression. And so yeah, but she was like, oh yeah, like I actually have space for an intern, like you can just be my intern. And I was like, awesome. And so like I went to Zurich that summer, and then she really just like helped me like grow during the internship, and then beyond that, like she helped me find a role in Singapore after that. And I just felt like she advocated for me a ton, like behind the scenes, and just kind of modeled for me like what it looks like to advocate for someone else, and especially when I think that's easier to do for somebody that's like more similar to you. And so it will tend to happen more often for people who, you know, just more easily connect with those who are in leadership, which are generally certain backgrounds. So, and that kind of inspired me to then, like, I had an intern last summer and I was like, you know, super inspired to just help her along as well, and see how I could, you know, help her in her career and just like help her get whatever next role she wanted and things like that. So, so yeah, that's a story from me.
For me, it's probably Carrie Naschenberg. I feel like he does a lot for just like UCLA in general. And I've always I was like, wow, that shit's cool. But also just having like one-on-one conversations with him, I felt like he has like been a really awesome mentor in terms of like, you know, like there are times where I'm like stressed out of my mind at work, and I feel like Carrie has always like kind of had open doors, and because I feel like he had so much experience, it's always I've always had like really thoughtful conversations with him, not just about work, but also just about like what it means to be a minority in general, or like in the workplace or at Google. And it's just been like very, very helpful as a mentor. So definitely Carrie for me.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing all of these awesome people who inspired you. I guess my last question for all of you, let's change the roles a bit. Say you're the mentor and you have an opportunity to mentor your younger self. What would you tell him or her?
I would tell her that it's okay that you don't go to hackathons while you're at school. Because I never went because I didn't want to do them. And I was like, if this is what it takes to get a job, I guess I just won't get a job. But it was okay. And I would also tell her to do the things that make you happy. I didn't do theater I did a show my freshman year, and then sophomore year happened, and I was like, I have too much work to do. I can't do anything else but work. And I was so miserable. And then I started doing theater again. I started participating with Hooligan again, and I was just a happier, more well-rounded person. And so I think I would tell my former self that it's okay to have a diverse set of passions. It's okay to have a creative outlet. You need that for your own mental health. So do that.
I would say I'd tell my past self to like chill. I feel like I was always like overly stressed for like absolutely no reason. And like I'm sure those times I should be stressed, but I feel like it was like a little bit over the top. And I think, you know, I wish I could be like, hey, like, and it's all gonna be okay. It's just like, don't stress, like keep doing what you're doing, like you're on the right track. Yeah, I wish I could say that, because I got so much acne from being stressed all the time, and that was not a good look. But yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with kind of both of those, I think. Yeah, I think just like I would tell myself to relax and like not think that, you know, everything has to be perfect in order for me to succeed. And you know that, you know, computer science doesn't have to be your number one passion in order for you to get a job. And yeah, and I felt like also like as students, like we're all so focused on getting jobs, and I feel like now, I don't know, like I feel like the job market is like there's still so many like software engineering positions that are open, like, and I just feel like I was overly stressed about trying to get a job when there were actually like a lot of opportunities. And even people that I know that like maybe didn't even have offers by graduation, like they were fine, you know, in the end. And so I think just having a bigger perspective and knowing that like things are gonna turn out okay, and yeah, just take time to relax and enjoy the moment more.
Awesome, thank you so much. Those are all great pieces of advice that I know I personally will definitely take to heart. I know that time's almost about up, but we want to open up the discussion to our attendees if anyone has any questions. So if anyone has any questions, I'll unmute everyone, or feel free to ask them in the chat as well. So I'll just give a second in case anyone wants to ask a question.
Question for Cristen. How did you like muster up the courage to like move internationally?
That's a good question. I mean, some of it is like I wanted to. So that's, I guess, like when you want something enough, then you will do what it takes. But I wouldn't say it was easy by any means. But I would say that a lot of it is just about recognizing that it's going to be challenging in certain ways and kind of mentally preparing yourself for that. And I also had the benefit of having moved internationally growing up. So I knew at least a little bit what it's like to like go somewhere new and then like you don't know anybody and you don't have any friends and you know you feel lonely for like 6 months and then like you know you grow and you move on. And knowing that like you know knowing that like fitting in a new place is going to take time and like you do have to put in more effort to like building relationships and things like that. So I think yeah, but I think also like some of that courage was also just like being slightly blind to some of the challenges that would happen. But like you know I think it's something that like it's definitely possible, and like I've definitely met like a ton of people who are in that category as well. And you know you grow through it so much. Like I feel like I've grown so much as a person through that kind of experience. And so yeah, I definitely encourage people to live internationally if you get the opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
So we got a question in the chat that asked, what were all of your favorite classes at UCLA? It said CS or non-CS.
My favorite
I'll
class.
have two answers.
For my favorite CS class. Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say I took a film and music class, I think my freshman year, but it was super fun because I got to write a paper on the score of Up, which was great and a good time. But I think the most interesting class I took was a computer science class on computer vision. It was the second series, so it was the one right after the graphics class. It was an upper div class. That was fascinating to me. And it was taught more like a grad school class. So like it was pretty chill in terms of like homework and grades. Like the things that we were learning were super interesting to me. So I'd recommend that class. I'm done now.
For me, it was my favorite CS class was 143 databases. I think that was it was just such an interesting class and also like very useful, and I was dying in the class, which I normally feel like. And then for my favorite non-CS class, it was a class called Korean 40. And I think that was like one of the first quarters it was offered. So it was like a 25-person class. And I liked it because we had to do, like our only homework was like writing papers, and the papers were graded on a check minus check or check plus scale. And that corresponded to an A minus A or A plus. And I was like, nice. Yeah.
My favorite CS class was CS 111, and I really enjoyed like low level stuff and like operating systems. I found it really cool. Like all the projects that we got to do. And I felt like that was like one of the first classes that I really succeeded at, like to a degree that I felt really confident in, which was cool because like the lower divs were harder for me. And then non-CS class, I loved all my Gs actually, but I took like a Beethoven class, which like I play piano and I enjoy Beethoven, so that was cool. And then like a poetry class that was really awesome as well. And then I took a Southeast Asia history class like my senior year spring, which definitely helped like prepare me for like understanding where I was moving to as well. So that was cool.
Yeah, I wish we had more than 5 GEs, right? I think it was 5, at least when I was there. We had 5 GEs, everything else was computer science. And I was like, I loved all the 5 that I took because I picked them specifically based on my interests. But I was always sad that we couldn't take more at, without, which is like, get rid of some of these other classes. I don't need them.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that as well. Does anyone have any last minute questions that they want to jump in and ask? If not, I just want to say it's been a pleasure and amazing to have all of you on today's panel. And if you have any last words for the people who come to tune in.
I don't know. Stay safe during Corona.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
so
stay safe.
I think, yeah, in this time, it's definitely, I think, the main thing to stay by. And again, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day and sharing your perspectives and experiences with all of us today. We really appreciated it. And thank you to everyone who came in and joined to listen to our panelists. Again, stay safe and stay healthy, and make sure you wash your hands for 20 seconds. So we were your hosts, Chloe and Ryan.
And I'm your host, Ryan.
Yeah. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.